Hey guys, this is Eric Weingarten with Weingarten Racing. It is Saturday, so it's an update video day. There's a lot to talk about this, so please don't just stop watching because this will affect all of you. A lot of important stuff or interesting news, I guess you should say. So for instance, one of the things I'm going to do from now on Saturday videos, I'm going to do this. What happened was, and one of my comments in my last video about not being nice, or I think it was actually the last video about the AFR heads, some guy had commented, you have no problem getting parts for free, but you're not gonna give free advice. Look, there's 500 and something videos I've created that's full of free advice. You do have to search, but he does have a valid point. You know, you could absolutely still go to my online store, which I'll put a link in the description, and for 25 bucks, I'll call to answer your question, whatever that question may be. And so that's a huge deal. So you get that. But some of you are like, I ain't got 25 bucks, which I get too. So what's going to happen is each week, if you email me a question and you're not a channel member or not a customer, so your customers, I try to get back as quick as possible. If you're a channel member, obviously for really quick, I get back to you as well. But if you're not one of those two and you email a question, what I think I'm going to do, I'm going to select a few each week and I'm going to put them answering those questions at the beginning of the video. And that's where this head's going to come in, which we'll get to in a minute. So in this video, it's going to take a little bit because I want to just talk about some of the other stuff first. But I am going to answer a question because someone actually asked. I'm going to answer it. So if you're like, I'm not a channel member, but I like your channel. I can't afford to pay that, $150 to become a channel member, or I don't have 25 bucks to ask you a question, or I'm not really buying anything from you, but I do have a technical question. You can email me and hopefully your question will get answered in the Saturday video. But there you go with that. Speaking of which, for channel members, I have to say I actually felt guilty for you. So first off, let me start off with this because it's important for channel members. You should sign up to be a channel member. Yes, it's $150, but you're getting text dyno information the day it's happening. Speaking of which, because on Thursday, yes, this Thursday coming up, I'm going to be on the dyno again, but it won't be with the dyno mule. It'll be with a customer's engine. It's going to be a 468 big block Chevy. It's got AFR 305 heads. It does have some compression ratio in it. I did the camshaft for it. There's no ported pieces or nothing on it, but it should be a great combination. So channel members, you're going to get that stuff texted to you on Thursday, so look for that. If you're not a channel member, you should sign up. That's one of the perks of it. But the other thing is this, channel members, this is for you. And don't get me wrong, I'll get to non-channel members in a minute. I kind of feel like you're not getting as much as you should from this. So what I've done is this. I felt bad. I used to charge you guys 20 bucks to get a PDF copy of dyno sessions. No. And although I still text you the dyno numbers the day of, the PDFs are much easier to read. We all know that. So from now on, if you're a channel member, you're just going to get the PDFs emailed to you. So if you want a PDF of any of the stuff that I have right here, email me and I'll just send it to you. No charge for that at all for a channel member. For the rest of you, this is big. So I've started doing this. There's always been a PDF bundle on my online store, which means all the books that have been published, you can purchase the bundle. Now, I'm never going to raise the price any more than what it is right now. It's $150. But what that would do is would have every single dyno test that I've done, that I've created books for, you'll have that PDF will be in that bundle. Now, the catch is some of you will know, like, wait a minute, I already bought that bundle, but it didn't have this book and it didn't have this book. That's right. If you want to add on a dyno session, a particular one, it's just 20 bucks. So if you're like, look, I already bought the bundle back in December, but now you have the 541, I really would like to see that numbers. It's just 20 bucks for the PDF. Or you could do what these are. These books are now available in print. So and initially what I did is I was going to make one gigantic book. It turns out that's actually going to be a nightmare to mail. It was bigger than the envelope, so that gave pause. So instead, and this is the reason why I kind of feel bad for some people that pre-order the book ended up being a lot cheaper than what I thought. So I pre-order was like $150, which is really expensive, I thought. But I was like, I better shoot high in case this book costs a fortune. Well, it didn't cost near that much. So several of you, the 6 of you that actually did pre-order, because not very many were made, you ended up getting this book for free. So I sent this one. So let me explain. Usually the pre-order would have every dyno test I had, which were these two. But I actually included this one. This is flow testing data. This is all from the first quarter of the year. So it's not all of them, because if I did this book, it would be literally probably 2 inches thick. I'd have to mill in an actual box. But anyway, you got that in there. So if you get in your books, because they shipped out yesterday, you wonder what that's the reason for it. I feel like you should have probably had that. So anyway, but these books are available. You can purchase them individually, whatnot. It's up to you. But anyway, those are now available and as in print. So Anyway, from going on in the future, I'm not doing quarters. That was a dumb move. After all, I only sold 6, which was, I didn't make any money, which I didn't want to even pay for a dyno. Didn't even pay for one dyno session. So from now on, every dyno session I have is just going to be one print book and then a PDF. So if you're not a channel member, a PDF would be 20. The books are probably going to be about 50. I make some money off that. Anyway, each book will just be 50 from here on out. And the PDF's 20 unless you're a channel member and it's free. So anyway, long story short, there you go with that. Sorry to waste 5 minutes of your time. Let's get to this guy's question. So what this guy had asked, and he asked a really good one. So this was the email that was asked. He said, look, I didn't purchase these heads from you, which I appreciate him being honest because I have no problem answering customers' questions. But he's like, I didn't purchase AFR Enforcers heads from you. I didn't even know you were around. But he had a question. So here's what I have. I have a set of the AFR Enforcer. These were actually on the dyno mule. So these are the first small block Chevy dyno mule, the 406. The very first heads are on it were these AFR Enforcers. So I actually have them here to show you. He's asked, hey, they're supposed to be 64 cc's. Can they be milled down to, I think he said 62 or 60 cc's. So, but it doesn't matter at all. I'll try to answer that. First off, this is the first dyno session book. You're like, oh, you're selling crap again? No, I'm just showing you this because the information's in there. So from the very first dyno session, so if you got the PDF bundle, you'd have this in there too. One of the things I did for the heads was this, right there. On the AFR Enforcer heads, I actually CC'd every one of the chambers, not just every one of them, all 8, so both pair, and also the intake ports as well and the exhaust ports. But the one he's asking about is the chambers. The chambers, even though they claim to be 64, they're not. So if you look, 66.2 seems to be the most common one. But granted, they're all 66. I mean, there's one that's 65, but rounds up to 66. So point being to his question, the chambers are 66 cc's, they're not 64. So you're gonna ask yourself, can they be milled down? Well, I'm gonna talk about a few things that has to deal with, can you mill them down? First, I only flat mill, I don't angle mill because it adds more problems. So if you're trying to angle mill, I'd encourage you just get a bigger dome. But you're like, I can't, the things are together. Sorry, just how I work. But anyway, let me get to it essentially. In general, when I flat mill, which means I'm just cutting, you can think about it, I'm just shaving off a section to flat across this deck. In general, you remove 6/1000ths would remove 1 cc. So if you look at this, and we're just gonna do some math in my head, let's say I wanted to get to 60 cc's. Right now it's at 66. So 6 cc's need to get me removed times 0.006. Looks like I need to take off 36/1000ths, all right, just to get to 60. So 36,000, which you're like, that's not really that much. And granted, you're not, but there's 2 things I want you to think about before you ask if your heads can do it. One, if I'm flat milling, my piston and valve clearance instantly lost 36/1000ths because if I mill off 36/1000ths, guess what? I've lost piston and valve clearance by 36/1000ths. So the first thing you should probably do before you ever do it is mock up the head on your engine and actually see if you've got enough clearance. Because let's say it's not so much the intake, it's really probably the exhaust. Let's say you have 120. So you've got more than what you need right now. If I mill off 36, to me, you're starting to get into the danger zone because I like to have 100. Some people run 80 on exhaust for clearance. I like to have 100. It just makes me feel more comfortable, right? So anyway, you're in that danger zone. So can you do it? You could. My part of the head, doing the head, not an issue. You doing the piston and valve can be an issue. Now, that's one thing, but there are 2 other things because this is a small block Chevy head, even though Ford heads essentially have the same thing. Pretty much any wedge head would have this. When you mill off, what you're doing is, this is the seat, which you can see, but you can see the deck surface here. You start removing this. What we don't want to have is where the deck gets so thin that it starts really digging into the seat. There are times where we mill quite a bit off and we'll be into the seat. So that's fine, but you can mill so much where it gets into that seat area. See that right there where you could obviously see it because it's shiny. You can actually see where it could get into the deck. Not just into the deck, but into the seat area where the valve would actually sit. So in that case, then what you have to do is you have to redo the valve job. So then the chamber would actually grow because you're bringing your valve in, so the chamber gets larger. You get the idea. Point being is, That's some heads you can't. So this one you probably can because there's quite a bit of distance, it looks like, so no problem. That's one area. So piston and valve hitting the actual seat angle itself is the other one. There's another one, and that's this. Small block Chevys and pretty much any port that's low, even like these. The other thing you have to consider is this. Your intake surface here, excuse me. If you take off 36 thousandths here, looks like I've got plenty of room before the bottom of the port. But in some cases, it's like my Dragon Slayers, my CNC ported Dragon Slayers, they're not necessarily thin, but they definitely have less material than this. So if I went to say remove 60, my gasket material here at the bottom of the port's getting pretty thin. And what might happen is it could suck in. So really it depends on how much material you also have here. 36 thousandths, you'll probably be fine here as well. But that's one other thing to think about. Same thing with Fords, so it doesn't really matter. LS's heads, you have no problem with that because you got a raised runner, but us guys with the smaller port entries, we have that issue. So to answer your question, can you mill off that? You can. And most likely on this head, you probably can. I could probably mill off and get you down to 60 cc's on a flat mill. One other problem that I just forgot to mention is this. Intake port alignment. This is huge because you can go back and watch some of the dyno videos I've had on this. What we would typically want is pretend this my fingers in the intake manifold, we want it to be the same, right? Well, if you mill off this head, guess what? You're moving the head down. You're moving it towards the deck surface. So that means this intake, if it was perfect here before, it's now like this, which means the intake opening's hitting this part. And I have done videos before of this, and it actually really does hurt airflow quite a bit. So you might have gained compression, but you have lost power because of it hurts flow so much that you've reduced flow more than, and that created less power than the compression gained. However, most of you that have not port matched your heads will know your intake manifold is probably like this, where it's actually smaller than the port. So when you go ahead and mill it, you might actually now bring it to the top where it's where it exactly needs to be. Don't worry about the bottom. But if you have a smaller port and then you mill it and it comes up and now you're at the very top of the port, you've made magic happen. So then in that case, it's a better deal, but it's something you need to consider. So hopefully that answers your question. It's a long one to get there, but there you go. Now, let's get the other updates for today because that's what Saturdays are about. Let me show you this. Okay. Here's the Promax, a different one. I actually ordered this. This is a great story for you guys because it's an update. So as you guys know, I've got my tons of heads. My Robbins SG8 machine over there. And I was telling, I called Jeff Hopper because that's where I got my machine from. I was like, hey, buddy, man, your machine is not cutting on these seats, man. I'm telling you. And he's like, it should mow through everything. I said, hell no, it don't. These seats right here seem to be the ones that get kicking my rear. And it's not this exhaust seat, it's the intake seats, that copper alloy. It's because it's not uniform. There's hard and soft spots in the seat because it's Chinesium. I hate this seat. So anyway, he said, you know what? You need to get me that head, send it to me, and I'll cut it on my machines here. And if the machines here cut it great, then it's something on your machine, and we need to come down there and we'll see if we can't get that worked out. Awesome. So props to him, good customer service, because what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna send this off to him and we'll see if he can cut it. I'm gonna probably send him with my blade, because my blades, as you know, I'm a 5-angle cut, and they're literally cutting in a section like this big on a swipe, instead of like some of you using like little bitty 3 angles, which only cuts this much material. No, I'm getting it. You know, by the way, I did try the little 3-angle cutter, and it still did the same thing, because trust me, I was so frustrated. So anyway, I'm sending this off to have him try that. That's why this is here. Speaking of which, the Promax large bore, I did redo the valve job though, and that's going to be in the video on Monday to show the differences between the large bore and the small bore Promax LS3 heads, the ones that will be used in the dyno mule. So let me tell you this. One of the engines on the dyno mule, which I mentioned several times, is the 408 LS. I'm going to be testing several different heads, one of them being this one. You'll get to see that video on Monday with the heads, because I actually got flow numbers and CC'd and everything. Anyway, I'll be testing the large bore LS3 head, the small bore Promax LS3 head, the stock 823 heads. There are 2 other heads that are possibilities. One's being the Liberty LS3 that I sold to a customer, and it's been pretty heavily milled down. I would like to get that one here just to see what it would do. And then the other one, if time permits, and I still need to finish it, that's why I say time permits, the Brodix BR3 heads. I did some work on them, so they're not stock either, but you'll see if I get it finished, I'll show you. hopefully do some supercharger testing. But then I got the thing, and crap, there's more stuff that I need time to put on that to get the supercharger to work with that. One, I forgot Gary. I don't know if the guy place where I dyno, I'm not so certain he has a boost reference regulator, which I do, which I was like, I need to know if he's got the right sizes. And then I'm also thinking, I haven't even mocked up this whole blower setup to see if, because I guarantee I'm probably missing an elbow to go to the carburetor in some way. So I'm like, crap, I don't know if I have time. Because the last thing I want to do is be hooked up on the dyno, wasting time trying to get all of it to fit in, spending like $100 an hour, be like, I need an elbow, and then not have it there. So working on it, can't guarantee that though. The heads for sure. Heads testing NA, yeah, that shouldn't be a problem. Except for the last two, the Liberty and the Brodex. I don't know if I haven't done in time. But I am dropping off the other 3 sets of heads to him to mock up so we can get the push rod links. So there you go with that. That's it. But several of you have noticed, like, want to know information about the Nova. The shop is a disaster. I spent too much time grinding this week and not enough time cleaning. But my son's 9-inch rear end came in, so we're good to go there. That's going to be pretty exciting. It's a quick performance. Still need to buy the gear because I'm going to use my Strange third member, but I need to change the 456 gears into it and put the 350s in it. You're like, wow, that's too little, go slow. Yeah, I don't want him really to go all that fast yet. The engine makes peak power like 5,500 or 5,800 RPM anyway, so I don't care. This is just to get his feet wet, so it ain't gonna be, let's kill the world with this thing. This is a hydraulic roller 350 made 425 horse, 425 torque. It's pretty basic. But anyway, there's that. The other thing is, last weekend I got to go hang out with Tony. If you don't know who Tony is, you need to go back and watch my old videos. He's a guy we downloaded the 383 for. And he actually had a TCI transmission, so this is what's going in. This is a Turbo 350. And we're going to put that in there. So, got to get that cleaned up. I'm going to change the pan on it because it's got that steel one. I put aluminum on. New filter. I've already got a converter for it and a different dipstick too. I want a locking one for him. And that's going in. Keith gave on this one, but no, it's long tail shaft, short tail shaft. Which one do you think I prefer? That's right, short tail shaft. So anyway, his transmission's here. Clean that up. So if he'd ever have time to work on it, there's the axles, by the way. If he ever had time to work on the car, we'd probably be making some great progress, but we're simply not. He is still not siliconed up the seams. I still need to buy some hush mat to put that in there. The shop itself is too busy anyway to get hardly anything done, so it's super, super difficult. As far as the S10, I'm still waiting for the supercharger to get back, because I do want it back, because I really want to go down to Dugan. His family's got a chassis dyno in McAllister, and I want to put the engine on it, or the truck on it, and see what it does on the E85, get the tune right. There's 2 big things I want to do that are not racing related with the S10. One, in Enid, Oklahoma, where I grew up, they have something called Cruising Van Buren, because they're major streets Van Buren. And I want to take the truck and just drive it up and down. My dad he liked to go and watch that. So I really want to do that. And also in Ponca City, they have Cruising Grand, which is another thing my father liked to do and go and watch. So I really would like to do that. Trucks finally, it seems like every year it's broke at the time that they have that, or something's parts missing. But it is running, and I want to keep it running up until that point, unless I blow it up on the dyno, and then I swear to God, I'll put the other engine back in it. But anyway, there's your update. A lot going on. Bishop's actually back in swim season. We're now in long course season. He's got a meet today. But anyway, that's in Bartlesville, so not a lot happening. But yeah, you can tell things are just a disaster in the shop. When you spend a lot of time in the grinding room, you don't spend a lot of time to get any other stuff done. And it shows. So we did get a lot done today, or this week, a lot done. Still got a lot to go though. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. Buy some books, and you guys take care. Oh yeah, I don't pour cast iron heads, and I'm not a nice person. Take care. And I'm not Superman.